Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the Modding of Isaac with Lyte. And we're here in an item room full of items, all of which from the item room pool. I suppose the treasure room would be more precise, but they're all item room items. You don't see any devil deal items, you don't see any boss items. These are all things you're going to find in the item pool, which is great because when you spawn a random item in a room, it uses the appropriate pool for that room. That'll come in handy. But the main reason this is up is because this episode is about costumes and item pools. As you can see, there's one item that doesn't really belong. I know you might not necessarily recognize every one of the new Afterbirth Plus items just yet, but if you look to the right one and up one, that is not one of your vanilla everyday items. I added that to this item pool and created it from scratch. So if we somehow make our way to it, we pick up the Day Bloom. Peaceful, but odd. It gave us a red heart container, filled it, gave us a spirit heart and a black heart, and a cute little flower on our head. Isn't it adorable? Now, there are ways that people have added costumes to mods with a single item, but it's a hack. It doesn't work if you've got more than one item in your mod. If you just need just a single item, that's fine. You just create your items.xml, your costumes.xml, and your animation file, and you're done. No coding involved. But if you have more than one, you need to do something else. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So let's exit out of this run, get some regular old Isaac music going, and head back over to the desktop. And so a bit of what we're going to do today, I'm going to skip over because we've already made passive items, we've already made images, so I don't need to make the entire mod from scratch. So we've got our Day Bloom mod here. It's just a folder, same place as everything else. I've made the resources folder already with some GFX, and then under that I've got characters, costume, and then a picture. Now this particular image doesn't seem like much here, but it's the flower on your head. So that was under GFX, characters, costume. Now it's not 100% that you need to put it there, but conventionally that's a good place to put it. And then under items, collectibles, we've got the regular old Day Bloom image. Okay, so image-wise, in the resources, we're good to go. Also, this episode, Mac users, I'm sorry, but you don't have an animation editor yet. So unless you want to go hacking away through the XML that is an NM2 file, you're a bit out of luck. But today we're going to actually play with some animation files. So if we go into GFX and then under characters, these are the various costumes for the things you can pick up. The one we're interested in is Black Lotus. Now I'm going to do something a little weird first, just such that you can see it. I would like to open this. Show me some more. With Notepad++. That's right, I'm opening a .anm2 file with Notepad++. Because they're XML files. All it does is tell it what to do with the sprite maps you give it and what the sprite sheets are. So if you really wanted to, you could open these up, take a look around, see exactly how it works, and then write your own in a text editor. So you can. I'm not going to do a tutorial on that because that is beyond the scope of this particular episode, but just so you know, it's an XML file. You could edit it if you wanted to. For everybody else, there's MasterCard. I mean, the animation editor. So we go into our Isaac Rebirth folder under Tools, and then there's the animation editor. When you open it up, it brings up this big old complicated scary looking thing, and you have no idea where to start. So when you have no idea where to start, cheat. We're not going to build one from scratch. It's it's not necessary at this point. So we go to File, Open, and we want to open one that already exists. So we go into our Resources folder from Rebirth, and then track one down that is similar to what we want. And so we go to 226, Black Lotus, because our Daybloom looks an awful lot like a Black Lotus. So we've loaded it, and it doesn't look like a whole lot's changed. We've added a sprite sheet up here. Sprite sheets are basically pictures that have multiple pictures on them. We've also added a few animations here that have fancy IDs. Head down, head right, head up, and head left. There are a few more. So if you look in some of the other Anim2 files, you'll also have walk up, walk right, walk left, walk down, such that you can separate the head animation from the walking animation. We're not doing that in this one, but it's very similar. So if you want to do something that involves the whole body, you grab a different animation, see how that works, and modify yours from there. So if you click on any of these, it brings up a timeline down here. These are frames going through time. And right where it says grid, you've got the actual picture of what it's going to show you. So you can just drag this playhead across, and you can see all it does is it bounces up and down and up and down and up and down. That's all there is to animating the things that go on there on Isaac's head, because all he does is bounce a little bit while he walks. Okay. Well, what else do we need? Well, if you click on one of these sprite frames, it shows you over here in the grid which you're actually looking at. So for head left, we've got these. Head up, we've got these. Head right. Head down. So when you're facing down, it's just jauntily off to the side. When you're facing to the right, it's facing the camera. When you're facing left, it's away from the camera. So this was down, so this one's up. When you're facing away from the player, when Isaac is facing away from the player, it's slightly off to the side. So what do we do from here? Well, like I said, I prepared an image earlier. I took this blacklotus.ping and I modified it. I changed the colors around a bit, but you can do whatever you want to these images and then bring them back in here and just replace the one that's here. But we're gonna do that in a second. First, File, Save, As. Now we can just steal this file and put it in our mod. So go to our mod, Daybloom. Now, animations are still resources. This is not content yet. So we come into resources, GFX, characters. This is where you want to put it. Again, it's not absolutely necessary, but it's conventional, such that if you work with someone else's mod, if everyone puts it in the same place, everyone knows what's going on. So let's call it daybloom.anim2. So it's now in our mod. Great, if we picked up the Daybloom at some point, it would look like the Black Lotus. Next step, let's make it not look like the Black Lotus anymore. What we're gonna do is grab this guy and we're gonna replace it with the sunflower I built earlier. And what do you know? It's now yellow and orange instead of black and purple. And it's like that for all of the different orientations. Brilliant. Now, if you want to do more fancy animations, you can just keep going throughout more frames. You can make this animation as long as you need or want it to be. You just come down here, add frames, delete frames, do whatever is necessary to make it the length you want. Right now, the animation length is 4, you just kick it up, add more frames, but they all need to be in sprite sheets. No sprite sheet, no animation. So before you try to animate it, make every frame of it in an image. Then you bring the image in here and work some magic. So now we've changed the Daybloom to a nice sunflower image. We hit save. Are you sure? It'll overwrite the existing XML. This is what clued me into it being an XML file. Yes, Congratulations, we now have an animation for our fancy item. All done with that. So if we come back here, GFX characters, here it is. Nice and simple. So now we actually need to add it to our mod. Anytime you want to add something, you're going to need a content folder. In this content folder is where you're going to put your various XML files that add new things. So we're going to make a new text document. It's going to be a regular old XML file. We're going to make items.xml first. If you've been watching my videos, you know how to do this. Or at least you've got some idea how to do this. So you open it with items. Case matters a lot. If you do it lowercase, it needs to be, like, if I do it lowercase here, it needs to be. Like, if that was a capital I, crash. Your game, runtime error, done. So, items, GFX root equals, we'll remember from last time, we need a slash at the end. And then version equals a 1. And then always close your tags. So slash items, not items, slash. Okay, next up we need to make the item. Okay, passive. Let's see. We need to say the cache is empty. We are not upgrading our stats with this day bloom. Description. This is the subtitle. Peaceful, but odd. Okay, this is all review. Name. Daybloom. Okay, we're moving right along. GFX. We need to tell it what it looks like. Daybloom.ping. That is what we named it, right? Pretty sure it wasn't sunflower.ping. That was the other thing. Okay. I keep saying okay. So, let's say so for a while. Next, we wanted it to add hearts. And you can do that right here. No Lua necessary. So we wanted to give them heart container. Max hearts equals, and then you add heart containers 2 at a time. Because 2 max hearts is 1 heart container. So we're gonna add 1 heart container, that's 2. We wanna fill that heart container. So hearts equals 2. We're just filling that heart container. If you wanna fill all the heart containers, you can do like Magic Mush does and put 100 here. If you want. Next up, we gave him a soul heart. Soul hearts equals 2. Brilliant. Then we gave him black hearts. Just a single black heart. Voila. And then we close it. Because we got a name, we got a description, we got the cache, we got the GFX, got a heart container, fill that heart container, add a soul heart, add a black heart. Change those numbers however you see fit, but that's how you can make a super duper ultra simple hearts item. No coding necessary. Save it, double check the spelling, double check the capitalization. Great. Next up is going to be adding it to the item pool. Simple enough. Itempools.xml. This didn't used to work. They've hatched the game, totally works now. We open it up. Now this one really bugs me. Really bugs me. Because they didn't follow their own style. Now they're following the Pascal case. I think someone different wrote this than wrote the other. Because it went from being all lowercase, like you'd want in an XML file, to Pascal case, which you expect in program. Gets even more annoying. Because not only is it the tags that are Pascal cased, item pools, and then we make a new pool, Pascal case, fine, whatever. The attributes are also Pascal cased. So we make a pool, its name is treasure, because the treasure rooms are the pool we want to talk about. Whenever you open a tag, you close the tag. Capitalized the same way. And now we add an item to it. Item. So, right-facing gator, item. Now the item needs a name. This name matches your item in your other file. Brilliant. Now we need a weight. This is how likely it is to show up in any given room, like any given room of this pool. So this one, upon recommendation from the developers, should be 1 or less. If it's 1, it's the equal weight with everybody else. If you decrease the weight, I believe that should make it less likely to show up. Next up, decrease by. This one decreases the pool itself. Now, some of these are a little weird. I'm not certain of all of the precise details on how they work, but that is making the pool smaller and smaller towards breakfast. And then remove on is the point at which this item becomes breakfast. So these figures are how you end up breakfasting yourself. So if you don't want it to ever breakfast, you might be able to do that by fixing these numbers. But for now, something along these lines should be all right. Vaguely all right. You can fiddle them to your heart's content. And then you save. You have now successfully added the Daybloom to the item pool. So you now have an item that adds health, just like the Black Lotus, but it's in the regular item pool instead of hiding in all those secret rooms everywhere. And that's all there is to it. There are various other pool names, and if you want to know what the other pool names are, you just go back to the resources folder and open up their itempools.xml, and you just scroll on down through all these treasure room items. Ugh. It's a long slog. And you see some of them are decreased by 1, some are decreased by 0.5, but all of them are weight 1. That's where I got my numbers from. There's the shop pool, so you can add your items to shops. Boss pool. Devil pool. Angel pool. Secrets, and so on down the line. You just open up this file, it'll tell you what all the pools are that you can add your stuff to. So we got items.xml, itempools.xml. We need one more XML file, because anytime you add content that is purely yours, you need a new XML file. And the other thing that we added was a costume. So we're gonna make costume2.xml. I don't know why it's costume2. Actually, it's costumes, plural, 2.xml. And in here, you're going to define your costume. Now this is where some of the mods that you'll find in the workshop depart from what I'm going to call good practice. Now, I'm not saying mine is good practice. I just know that theirs isn't. Because the way some people have done it is they just define it as a passive item here, and then do nothing else with it. Which is fine if you have exactly one item. The method I'm going to show you works no matter how many items you have and no matter how many mods are installed. So, like we had with the items.xml, it opened with items. Itempools.xml opened with item pools. This one is costumes.xml, so it opens with costumes. This one has a root, just like the items had a GFX root, but it's an anim2 root. And that one's going to be gfx/characters/. And every time you open, you close. Mm-hmm. And we're going to add a costume, just like the other ones. If we added an item, we added a pool, now we're adding a costume. There are only two things we need to know about our costume, at least at this point as far as I know. The anim2 path, which is where to find it in that GFX characters folder, and that's sunflower.anim2. Now I know my thing is a Daybloom, but I called it Sunflower because I was originally going to call it a Sunflower. I changed my mind. That's the beauty of these sorts of things. You can call them Oh, I did call it day bloom. It's real important to make sure you name things properly, or it's gonna go wrong. Daybloom.nm2. You can name it whatever you like, just so long as things agree across the stuff. Because the ping is still sunflower.ping. In here. Still sunflower. But here it's a daybloom, so here it's a daybloom. And then you need to define its type. Now, if you define it as passive, you can't reference it from your Lua code, as far as I know. Whenever I try to have it as passive, it returns a -1, and I can't do anything with that. But when you make it none, then you can reference it from your code, you can apply it when people pick up your item. There might be some other trick to using type equals passive. I just don't know what it is yet. So this method works for now. If something better comes along, I'll let you know. But that's our entire costumes2.xml. Done. That's all there is. Costumes, you add your costume, type none, here's the path, we'll use that later. Whew. 20 minutes in. This is taking longer than expected. Let's pick up the pace. Bacante. Okay, so we've got our content, we've got our resources. Now the fun part begins. Main.lua. And so we've got our good old-fashioned main thing. Now, we only have like 17 lines of code. It's not going to be bad. You start like you always do. Local. I haven't taught you what local means, but it's private. It's not like function, it's not like if, it's not like the other sorts of things you might need to end. You don't talk about a local. You're saying that the next thing is not public. It's private, it's locked down. And then we go register mod, spelled properly. I said properly. And then daybloom, comma, 1. Then we're gonna do the standard local game equals big game, voila, because we're gonna need that. And then we're gonna define a couple of constants, because of course we are. Daybloom mod dot collectible. Always do that. You'll see me do it every time. Daybloom. We could call it sunflower. Isaac dot get item by name. We've done this before. This should not be a surprise. This next one, tiny surprise. Daybloom mod dot costume daybloom equals. Now we need to get the costume. Isaac dot get costume ID by, and now you're tempted to say name. I know you want it to be name, but it's not. It's by path, because we didn't give our costume a name. We gave it an enum2 path. So we have to use the path to identify it. It's the only thing we told them. So what's the path? It's not daybloom.nm2. You have to give the full path. So it's gfx/characters/daybloom.nm2. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So we've attached these things to our mod. They're just mod-specific constants. We're gonna move down a bit, because we always move down a bit, and then for our daybloom mod, we're gonna add a callback. We always add callbacks. Without a callback, nothing happens. If you run code here, it only happens when you start the mod. So you need the callback to do anything. Mod callbacks. Callback, one word. When you add a callback, it's singular. When you've got a list of them, it's plural. Dot MC post p effect update. Whenever you need to know about the player, you want to use this one. and then whatever we're going to call that function. So daybloom mod dot, and I still like the event handling version on update. Daybloom mod dot on update. Post p effect, everything's good. So now we make that function. Function daybloom mod colon on update. We'll cover in a later episode exactly when to use dots and when to use colons. That day is not today, but we will cover it. When using the p effect update, this add callback, whenever it does the callback, it will give this function the current player. So that's what we put here, is what this will give it. Not what you want to give it. It doesn't matter what you want. This callback will give it the player. And always end your functions. I will also make a video on indentation, so you know when to indent, when not to, because it makes everything a lot more readable. So whenever you have a function and an end, indent. Everything is inside between those two. Never put anything down all the way to the left when you've got a function and an end, or an if and an end, or a for and an end. Don't keep things in line with those. Move it in a little. So what are we updating? Well, we need to update our inventory. If game get frame count equals 1. So this is when you start a run, then end. Every if gets an end, and anything between the two gets moved in. What do we do here? Daybloom mod dot has daybloom. Do we have it yet? No, we do not. The run just started. Brilliant. We'll put a little thing here, spawn in if necessary. So if you want to start the run with the daybloom, that's where you put it. Now, we need to be able to update our inventory when we do, in fact, pick it up. So if not daybloom mod dot has daybloom. So if our code doesn't know that you have the daybloom yet, and player has collectible. Common problem, if you don't capitalize the H, doesn't do anything. Just get an error. Daybloom mod dot collectible daybloom. And you see how I get the predictive text there? It's because I've already written it somewhere else. Eventually, we're going to shift over to using Zero Brain Studio, which does autocomplete for all sorts of Isaac-specific Lua. This is the difficult way because it's desirable difficulty. It's getting you to think about what you're typing so you don't have to rely on Zero Brain Studio to do your thinking for you. Do your own thinking. So, if our code doesn't know that you have the daybloom yet, but you do in fact have the daybloom, then you need to add it to your inventory. Has daybloom equals true. Daybloom mod dot has daybloom equals true. Only add it to your inventory after you've done the effects, just in case something goes wrong. So, what are the effects? We've already added the hearts. That's taken care of for us. All we need to do is add the cute little flower on your head. So we need to tell the player to do something. How do we tell the player to put a cute little flower on their head? Well, add null costume. Costume. Not custom, costume. Why null costume? Well, it's because we set the costume to be, you know, for nothing. We didn't say have it be a passive costume, we set it to be a none costume, and thus it is a null costume that we are in fact adding. So we take our daybloom mod dot costume daybloom, and that's it. No extra parameters. All you do is say put a flower on your head. Good to go. Save. We're done. That's all there is. Now, always take another good look through it. Make sure you Pascal case things the way they Pascal case things. Make sure you got colons where you're supposed to, dots where you're supposed to have them. We'll cover more on that later. Looking good, looking good, looking good. Now, we're going to reload Isaac just to be absolutely certain that it loads all of our assets. We're going to start it back up entirely. It shouldn't matter, but there are a lot of things that shouldn't matter.
Isaac.
And so we're going to head over into Isaac and see what we get. So we're going to deactivate Lorem Ipsum. We're going to activate Daybloom. And we're going to start ourselves a new run. Now, it's not going to be there. We didn't tell it to spawn. But if you go into the console using the back tick on a QWERTY keyboard, it's in the upper left. On a QWERTZ keyboard, it's next to your backspace. Now, what we need to do is give ourselves an item, which you can use just the letter G. And then it lists all of the things, but we don't know the number for the Daybloom. Some of you might think you know it. You probably do. But we're going to check for it anyway. You just start typing its name, and then it'll show you. C511. Now, if you only have one mod activated, and it only has one item, it's always going to be 511. But the moment you get a second mod, it starts getting fishy. So we give that to ourselves. Oh, we have a problem. We got our hearts, but we didn't get our costume. So this is the point in which you start debugging. And you go, well, what could have gone wrong? Well, it didn't crash, so our XML is probably not full of errors. But then you go and check out the log file. There are better ways of showing this log file, but I like Notepad++. It's just right here. And then you start scrolling and go, ooh, attempt to call a nil value. Field get item by name. Do you know what that is? Did you catch it while I was typing? So while I was typing, I was just doing this from memory, and it's like, oh right, get item ID by name. So we type it in, we save it, and then we come into Isaac. Now there are two things we could do. We could either exit out and toggle a mod, or you can go Lua mod, and then type in the name of your mod. Daybloom. And that'll rerun your code, and voila, I got a pretty flower on my head. Look at how lovely it is. Now I don't really like the back-facing animation, because it can see more orange than I think you should. There should probably be a petal in front of that orange. But otherwise, it's quite nice. That's all I've got for this episode. The remainder of the weekend will be covering the other two of the 3 Cs. This was costumes. Over the weekend, I will also attempt to tackle challenges and characters. That's right, we can add custom characters with art and everything. So I'll be looking into those, making new episodes, and I will see you in the next episode of the Modding of Isaac with Lyte.